Good afternoon. My name is Sheree Williamson. I am one of two of the co-representatives for the new professional and graduate student knowledge community for Region 4 East. And I am so excited to be presenting our fourth masterclass and probably our only one for the summer. However, me and my co-rep Jamie Lewis Fanal came up with the idea of helping our new professionals and graduate students with program proposals. The regional conference is around the corner. The call for programs is already out, and it's actually due next Friday, you all. So we want to make sure that you're ready. And then if you haven't seen your NASPA emails and news, we do have the call to schedule for the national conference that is currently out. That's been out since the 3rd of this month and will actually be open until September 4th. So with all these wonderful opportunities for professional development and presenting, we have been hearing amongst ourselves as well as other new professional and graduate students, how do I do this? This whole program proposal situation seems so daunting. How do I get ideas? What do I do with this program proposal? Asking me for research and asking me for the foundation and bones. How do I do that? How do I find other people that are interested in presenting with me? Well, you're in for a treat today because we have a great person on the call today that has been presenting for years at the national and regional level, and she's only in her first year, going into her second in the profession. So I will let my great friend and colleague, Christina, introduce herself from Valparaiso University and get started with our masterclass. As well, she does have a program PowerPoint that she has provided the link to. It is on the YouTube page right now, as well as it's in the Facebook event group. So if you want to follow along with the PowerPoint, please make sure that you click on that link. And here's Christina.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Sheree, so much for that lovely introduction. As Sheree mentioned, my name is CristinaFerrare, and I'm currently a residential learning coordinator at Valparaiso University in Northwest Indiana. And as Sheree mentioned, I do have a PowerPoint. So currently, I am actually looking at that. So as I go through the slides, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks and just some of my story. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, this masterclass today is called Keep Calm and Click Submit. And of course, I want to just give a shout out to the NASPA Region 4 East, new professionals and graduate students, KC. Thank you, Sheree and Jamie, so much for the opportunity to present to you all today. Definitely, folks, go ahead and join our Facebook group if you haven't yet. Wonderful resources, wonderful opportunities posted there regularly, and it's really been vital to me as a new professional and a graduate student. This KC has allowed me the opportunity to present, not just to you all today, but you know, I was fortunate enough to receive scholarships to be able to attend a conference, and they also have, you know, so much of a lot of what I'll be talking about today is about confidence, and I think so much of my confidence as a professional has been cultivated and developed because of the wonderful colleagues and the wonderful mentors that I have found in this knowledge community. So truly, this is a resource and a very important part of my professional journey that I just want you all to be aware of and make sure that you're connected to this Casey. All right, so who am I? So again, my name's Christina, and I'm in my first professional experience here, and I did my grad work at Loyola University Chicago and my undergrad work at DePaul University. So from the city to the suburbs / rural area, and definitely I encourage you to follow me on Twitter at CM_Ferrari3. You can feel free to tweet at me throughout the session. I unfortunately won't be able to respond to you immediately since I'll be talking here, but I'd love to stay connected and follow up with you later. So, all right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about my story and what kind of my journey and how I got into presenting. as well as some tips and tricks for submitting conference proposals. And then I'll wrap up with some final thoughts, and then I'd also encourage you to feel free to, at any time throughout the presentation, go ahead and submit some questions onto the Gmail, the Google Hangout. You can post some questions, and we'll be sure to address those later in the session today. All right, so my presenter story. So I remember my first graduate school year. And this was our orientation, and one of the things that we had talked about at orientation was having scholarship funds. So at Loyola, in the master's program for higher education, every student is allowed a certain amount of money if they're attending a conference, and then you're able to receive much more money if you're presenting at a conference. So there's an incentive to present. And so for me, that caught my eye, because I did really want to get connected to the profession and to be able to just contribute to the field, even as a graduate student. That was something that was important to me. And so I had known that. I had learned about the different scholarships available and stipends available. And so that was kind of the first introduction to say, maybe I should do this. And then the other piece to this became, actually, it was one of my professors talked about the importance of contributing to the field. You know, they said, again, this is very early in my first year of graduate school, he said to us, you're now a graduate student, you're now at a scholarly level, receiving a scholarly degree. And so as a scholar of higher education, you need to start thinking about how are you going to contribute to the field, because the Astons and the Baxter-McGoldas and the Chickerings of the field, they all were new professionals at one point. They all started and had this spark of an interest, and they followed those interests, and then they ended up fundamentally shaping our profession. And so as a master's student and as a scholar practitioner, we have an obligation to contribute to the field. And so that was something that I really took to heart. So my first experience with contributing to the field actually began as a program reviewer. And so I remember, I think it was ACPA for their national conference. I didn't have the opportunity to attend, but I still wanted to be involved, and the call for reviews came out, and so I hopped on and became a reviewer for the proposals for that conference. And that experience really influenced my, I think part of the reason why I've had the opportunity to present is because I know in part what folks are looking for. I've been able to be on the other side of it, if you will. And reviewers, anybody can be a reviewer. So as I'll talk about later, that's definitely one of my tips, is to volunteer to be a reviewer, because the insight that you'll gain is very invaluable. The other piece of my story here is, honestly, my motivation for wanting to present at a conference and just to go to a conference is because I love building relationships. I'm a networking nerd. And so I saw the opportunity to present as an opportunity to connect. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, but just keep that in mind. And then the other piece that I want to talk about is really presenting has become a way for me to integrate interests that I have that are not a part of my day-to-day work. So I work in residential life as well as leadership development. But beyond those areas, I'm also interested in interfaith spirituality, spiritual diversity, students' leadership development, particularly women's development, as well as service and experiential learning. In addition to that, I also am a fan of thinking about digital leadership and social media. So you can see a lot of different interests, right? So So that's definitely something that has become an avenue for me to pursue those interests and to make sure that I'm not losing the work that I'm doing in those areas, because if I'm presenting, then obviously I need to produce something, right? So I'm able to integrate my other interests into these realms. And then the last thing that I really want to stress is how, honestly, being able to present as a new professional or a graduate student, it's really about risk-taking and putting yourself out there, believing that you have something to offer, and then taking the time to produce something with quality. I'm sure we can all think about presentations that we've maybe gone to at an event or a conference that from the abstract seem to be really substantive, but once we go, maybe it's a little bit not what we were expecting, or we wished that they had gone into more detail, or there was something lacking. It was maybe a letdown, right? I know I've been to those sessions, and they've been valuable, but not to the same degree that I would have hoped. And so whenever I'm presenting, I always think about, okay, what are people going to take away from this experience, and how can I make sure that the 45 minutes or the hour that they're with me, that they're getting content and that they're getting something valuable every moment of that session. And so if you invest the time and if you hold on to the confidence, you'll be able to contribute something very valuable to the field. And so I'm excited to have you be a part of this session and to learn about a little bit about what that looks like. The first thing, as we kind of think about presenting, it's very attractive to want to present to a national conference or a regional conference or something, right? We talk about there's conversation around certain people that you see on stage or names that you see in a program, and you're like, oh, this is a rock star of the field. I want to be a rock star of the field. And I think make sure as you are looking into presenting, just remember that it's about the work, and a session is not about you, right? And I know that I've needed to be reminded of that personally. Sometimes I'm an actress. It's one of my hobbies, and so I've got to remember, all right, yes, I'm in the spotlight, but I'm not in the spotlight, right? So it's not my time to be on the soapbox. This is my time to share something, and the data is what the spotlight's on, or or the program that I'm talking about. That's what really needs to shine, not me, right? So, okay, so as we think about, so let's say, you feel very committed. It's a goal you want to present sometime in graduate school or sometime in your first couple years as a new professional. That's something that's important to you, right? I think it's important to examine a little bit deeper. Start with why. Right? So why do you want to present? What is it that you want to contribute to the field? I genuinely believe that conferences are about information sharing. It's an opportunity for professionals from all across the country and all across the world even to come together and to talk about what they're doing on their campuses, to talk about the research that they're doing, and to talk about their experiences and maybe their personal lives and their identity as a student affairs professional. And so really at the crux of conferences, it's information sharing. So I think with that, let's remember that we all have something to contribute to the field. And so what is it that lights your fire? What is it that you're doing on your campus that you think has really made an impact, or that you think perhaps other professionals are doing and it's worth noting and it's worth talking about? Or maybe there's something from your identities or from your personal life that's interesting. I have a colleague whose parents are deaf. What a great session that would be, is to examine how that upbringing impacted his life and impacts his work with students today. We all have something to offer, so dig deep and think about what it is that you can offer to the profession. And then lastly, again, remember, why is it that you want to present? Is it to start a conversation around something that we're not discussing? Is it to further develop your research interests? Is it to just simply have an opportunity to collaborate with other professionals who might be interested in the same thing that you're passionate about? So I think that's really the first step, is identifying those things. And then once you do that, definitely start to think about the time that it's going to take to develop a quality proposal, and of course a quality session. Certainly, I would encourage you to, if you're thinking of presenting, heck, maybe start thinking about the national conference. Yes, it's not till March, but time goes quickly, and as we all know, life gets busy. So start to plan ahead. Don't wait to the last minute. Jot down some ideas, and then also start to think about who could you collaborate with. I would even recommend that you do that before a call for programs opens. I remember my first year, I think it was the summer before graduate school, I started to think about, gosh, wouldn't that be such a great thing? I know that I want to give something to the field. I know that my main motivation was the summer before my first year in graduate school was I did a lot of interfaith work as an undergrad, and I was really worried that I wouldn't have an ability to do that interfaith work once I started grad school, because it was not a part of my assistantship. I didn't really know if anything existed at Loyola's campus or if I would be allowed to do that. And so I was really concerned that I wouldn't have the chance to pursue that interest, but I knew it was also something that was important to me, and I didn't want to let it go. So that was what motivated me to say, all right, well, what if I presented? Because at my undergrad level, we had created an organization, and we had done a 3-day interfaith retreat. And I said, this was a really powerful experience. It led to some interesting things afterwards. And so, how can I feel like it's something that needs to be shared. And so for me, I started to think about, okay, well, I wonder if anybody else is doing work similar to this. And so I went to NASPA's presenter match and just typed in interfaith. And then there were 3 other people who popped up, and I contacted them, just cold emails, just said, hey, I'm a new graduate student in Chicago. I see that you're also interested in interfaith work. Can we maybe chat? And I'd love to learn what you're doing. And so it was that first step of risk-taking and vulnerability, if you want to call it that, that opened the door and started a conversation. And then once the 4 of us, talked about the things that we're doing, we decided to go ahead and submit a proposal. And that was what led to my first national presentation. So, it all starts with an idea. And very often, you're not the only one who has that interest or idea. So go ahead and find out who else could maybe hop on and collaborate with you. Again, as I mentioned before, sign up to be a reviewer. See what others are submitting. If you don't have an idea, but gee, it would be great to present, reviewing presentations and proposals can help you start to generate those ideas or start to see what's being put out there and where are the gaps. And maybe there's some work that you can be doing with others to fill in those gaps that aren't being presented on at a conference. And of course, that insight will also share with you, what is it that selection committees look for. I was an English major in college, so I really enjoy being a reviewer because I get to, edit and nobody gets mad or offended. It's part of the process. My next tip for you is to go to a conference. So I think it's great if you can, and that's what I did too. I went to the regional conference my first year of grad school because, again, networking nerd, loved it. And as I was at the conference, I also thought about, okay, what do I like? What did I learn? What sessions were my favorite? What ones were I not a fan of, and why? And I think that can help you start to think about what sessions would you like. So for me, I knew that when I present, it's important that I have people interact with each other. I need to add in an activity or a piece of dialogue or something that's going to allow the people to be engaged, because I know for me as an attendee, I don't like just being lectured to. I like to also have something to share. So so that was helpful for me as I think about the sessions I'd like to present on. All right, my other tip for you is you don't have to go solo on a session. You certainly can if you feel that you have something unique or that it's a session that you think just warrants yourself. Personally, for me, again, I really like to find other people with common interests, and I've found that I've become very intentional about creating diverse presentation committees, so people who are from a different institution type than myself, somebody who maybe shares a different identity than I do, because I think, again, we all have something to contribute, so let's collaborate and work together to do that. The other piece to keep in mind is, we're grad students and we're new professionals, and every activity has, or excuse me, every campus has faculty on the campus, and they have colleagues who are probably doing similar activities to you. So reach out and ask those colleagues and those faculty to work with you. One of my sessions was my supervisor for an assistantship who worked with me on the session, and she also was a faculty member. So I was able to showcase her research and her passion area along with my own. So faculty very often have to present or create research, so see how you can volunteer and assist them. Sometimes, as you can probably imagine, full-time staff and faculty can get very busy. So volunteer to say, I'd love to put something together for NASPA or for ACPA or for this drive-in. Would you be interested in collaborating with me? I'd be happy. Go ahead, volunteer to submit the proposal. I'd be happy to put together the proposal. I'll write something up and run it by you. It saves them work, and it allows you an opportunity to grow in your professional development as well. So when we think about the actual proposal itself, I'd like to think about it as perhaps the outline or the executive summary of a paper. So again, being an English major, I'm going to create some analogies here. I know sometimes we don't always write an outline, or we don't always provide an executive summary for a paper. We kind of just dive into Microsoft Word and go at it. But what the proposal does is it's a skeleton of a session. So and it's very important. I mean, there's a reason why we have a proposal process, because if we were to just go at it with a session at a national conference or a regional conference, we're doing ourselves a disservice. So the proposal provides those planning the conference the opportunity to put together a diverse collection of sessions. They're very mindful as they're selecting sessions. Where are the gaps for the educational content? How does all of this connect with the theme? And so when you're writing the proposal, if you think about it as the outline or the general bones and framework for the session, then you're in a really good place, and you're giving the conference planning committee a rough sketch and a good idea of what they'll expect of the session. You don't have to have everything figured out right away. That said, if it's accepted, know that the proposal will be accepted based off of the foundation and the skeleton that you've selected. So, if they're accepting you based off of that foundation. So, it's not good practice to, let's say you get accepted and say, oh good, okay, cool, we got accepted with the proposal, scrap that, we're going to change our content totally and deliver something different at the session now that we got accepted. Don't do that, because that's misleading the conference planning committee and your attendees, and trust your gut, right? Like you can fill in the gaps, you can make tweaks. I had my most recent national presentation. I had somebody, who was unable to make it to the session at the last minute, and that was fine. We made some adjustments, but we made sure to keep and incorporate his contributions into the session, knowing that that was part of what our proposal stated. So we didn't want to lose that. We just had to make some adjustments, and that's cool. Let's see. And then also, too, finally, remember, presenting is a skill. I am by no means the expert or have it all figured out. So be patient, be persistent, and be participant focused. Right? Again, it's not about you. It's about what you can offer your audience. And of course, the art of presentation. I'm not going to delve too much into that in this session, but I definitely would recommend practicing in front of an audience, in front of a mentor before you get out there, because it can be intimidating when you see a room full of people you don't know, some people wearing fancy suits and are vice presidents, and then here you are, a grad student, standing up before them, right? But just know that. This is a skill, this is a practice, and again, everybody had to start somewhere. So why not start as you're learning and growing, and you offer a unique perspective as a new professional and as a graduate student. It's a valuable voice, and so don't be afraid to let that voice be heard, and don't let yourself get intimidated. All right, a couple more tips and tricks. So, of course, read the submission requirements and then read them again. It's very important. As a reviewer, I can tell you it's disappointing to read a proposal that has a really good heart, or some of it is really strong, but if they're missing a section, or if something's unclear, or if there's no research to back it up, then then it's difficult to want to accept it, or accept it without revisions, because it's lacking something substantial, or it's lacking something that we're looking for. So just like a job application, make sure that you're reading things, make sure that you're following what it is that the selection committee wants, because it makes their job easier, and it shows that you're detailed and that you're organized and that you're somebody who could be trusted to be able to present. All right. Take your time. So proposals can take. You certainly should not just sit down and say, all right, I got an hour to fill out this proposal. It's going to take some time. It's going to need some editing. And again, once you submit the proposal, that's not when the work ends. That's when the work just begins. Because if it's accepted, you'll have phone calls. You'll have to create the presentation and the content. If you're working with other people, there's going to be a lot of emails. So make sure that you can commit to delivering a quality program before you even start the application. Because, as I'll share with you in a little bit, sometimes these processes can take months. So just keep that in mind. And then also to remember that NASPA events are not the only conferences that exist. There are a lot of really wonderful drive-ins or other smaller events. Sometimes HESA programs, higher ed and student affairs programs, have their own little drive-in or mini conferences. What great opportunities is that to present? Don't feel like it's any less than, or it's not a valuable opportunity, because simply the art of, again, being able to contribute to the field, that matters. It doesn't matter if you do that at NASPA or at Loyola's HESA workshop, right? Just the fact that you are going through the process and offering up some information to others. You have your whole career to present and to research and contribute. So I'd recommend starting small and just, again, make sure that everything that you do is valuable. Okay, so the other piece of advice that I have for you is, again, as scholar practitioners, it's important that you integrate research. I've found that, especially at the national conferences, they want to see that you are tying whatever it is that you're sharing with your audience to theories, frameworks, and research of the field. You know, it's that theory to practice cycle that we always talk about, right? We really, I think as a field, we really need to be better about making sure that we're incorporating research into everything that we do. And when I say research, I'm not talking your Student Affairs 101, the vectors of Chickering, the general stuff that everybody learns. Certainly tie it to those fundamental theories and frameworks, but also think about conducting your own research or providing some kind of data with your content. Dig a little bit deeper and, again, work with your faculty to see what research exists out there that goes beyond the stuff that everybody learns in graduate school. I went to a session one time, and it felt a little bit like I was back in student development theory, because the information that they shared was pretty much the same information that we got out of our textbook. And so let's build on that versus just reiterating things that people in the field should already know. Again, as I've talked about before, make your session interactive. Anytime that you can get folks to move around, to discuss, to dialogue, that's very helpful, at least for an attendee, from my experience. And in part, as a presenter, it really helps to make sure that your audience is understanding some of the content that you're presenting to them, or if they have questions that it can be helpful to build in time to address that. Also, make sure that your sessions are relevant. So if there is a theme for a conference, you definitely want to make sure that you're incorporating into your proposal how this session is connecting to this theme, and be explicit about it. Again, not every idea that you have is going to necessarily be a fit for the conference, and that's okay. Again, that's why if you think broadly about presenting, as opposed to just presenting at the National NASPA conference or something, then you'll find that there are a lot of events that are looking for proposals that capture your specific interest. For example, we just did the Leadership Drive-In Conference for NASPA 4 East. We were very much seeking leadership-focused proposals. So if leadership is an area and a passion area, and maybe you've done some work with the RAs you supervise around leadership development, great. It's a perfect opportunity for you to capture that and to share that and to present at another event. Okay, so keep it interactive, keep it relevant, keep it purposeful. So related to that, make sure that it's timely, that if you're using research, try to use research from the last few years as opposed to back in the 70s or 80s, right? And then I've already talked about 13, so if accepted, don't change up your session too much. Deliver what you promised. Of course, the reviewers know a lot can happen from when, let's say, the acceptance goes out in February and the conference is in August. A lot can happen in several months. So they understand that, but as long as you're holding true to the essence of your abstract, then you're not fooling anyone, and you can feel confident about delivering the session that was accepted. And then the last trick and tip that I have for you is just to remember that essentially what you're doing is you're offering up, if you want to think about it this way, you're offering up a product to your audience. Your presentation is something that you're delivering to others, and so make sure that you package it with your proposal neatly, that it's organized, and that when it is accepted, that you're delivering it confidently and as perfectly as it can be. So if you invest the time, if you invest the work, and if you do a lot of that work up front with your proposal that will make your life so much easier after it's accepted, but it'll also help you to feel confident as you're sharing it with the world. All right, so I want to share with you a story about how I've sort of put some of this into practice. So I had an idea, I think about a year and a half, no, 2 years ago, about 2 years ago. I had just done an internship that basically I got that internship opportunity because of a social media connection and through Twitter, and I had heard about it, and it ended up becoming a reality for me. And so once I ended that internship, I remember thinking, how amazing is it that through social media I was able to have somebody take a chance on me and bring me all the way across the country to do a summer internship. This wasn't a NOTA or an Akuhoi process. This was an organic process that happened because of social media. And I thought, wow, that's very powerful. And it's amazing that a field like student affairs allows for that kind of thing to happen. And so I was thinking, gosh, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only person in our field who has experienced something like that. As amazing as that was, or as crazy as that was to go from Twitter to internship, I bet that there's something else out there that resonates with people and can connect to that. So, speaking of Twitter, I think the call for programs had just come out or was going to come out, and so I tweeted out there. I said, all right, I'm thinking of this idea. Would anybody be interested in talking to me about how relationships have formed from social media? And I used a couple of hashtags. I used the NASPA tweets handle, and I just tweeted out there, you know, is there anybody that would be interested in talking to me about relationships and social media? And I had quite a few folks, about a dozen, turnout, and about 6 of them had kind of come on board, and I said, you know, I'm thinking maybe there's something here for a proposal, and I had about 6 people who committed to working with me on the proposal, and if it was accepted, working with me to turn this idea into something deliverable at a conference. And so, long story short, we had something like over 10 Hangouts on Google Hangouts where the 6 of us gathered together. So I'm sorry, it was myself and 5 other people. So where we, you know, gathered together and you know, talked for at least an hour about our idea, figuring out, sharing stories, and sure enough, we all had different narratives about how social media allowed us to either develop a mentor, get a job, get an internship, you know, just simply be able to present research. There were all these kind of intersections that we had where social media forged relationships that couldn't exist otherwise. And so we talked a lot, we met a lot, we planned a lot. We had several Google Docs, dozens of emails. Some of our presenters who started with us had to, for their various reasons, had to withdraw or remove themselves from the process, and then someone else came on. So different combinations of folks as well. And we probably put in, all told, hundreds of hours of work. And all of this was for one 60-minute session. So I think, again, I don't want to intimidate you, but just be real and recognize that sessions are an investment in your time and in your energy, but I think a very worthy investment. And we also, one of the brilliant ideas that somebody from this committee had was to do an online chat prior to the conference. So we got our proposal accepted, we were working on it, and we said, I wonder what people would think about this. And so we created our own hashtag called EssayConnect, and we did one night, March 2nd, we did a rogue essay chat where people could jump on and share their thoughts related to our topic. And then that became data that we inputted into our session later. And then, you know, we had So we had an 8 o'clock session at the NASPA conference in New Orleans, and we had way more people than I thought would turn up at 8 a.m. on the last day of the conference. And so, just knowing that all the work and the energy was worth it, and that this was actually, something worthy of people coming to and spending their morning. And again, it all started with this idea that I had. So I think that was a very affirming moment for me, because I think it affirmed that, yes, the ideas and the contributions that we have as new professionals and grad students are incredibly valuable. And I think it was affirming for me as well to say, yeah, I have something to offer, and this is an important conversation. And it affirmed for me, too, that my interest in social media, this is something that I want to pursue even further. And that this is just the beginning for me in terms of research and exploring the power of being online and being connected online. And so I also, through this process, was the coordinating presenter, which means that I devoted, I wouldn't say, well, it just meant that I made a serious commitment to this process. I was going to say more time than my fellow presenters, but I don't know if that's true, because they were very dedicated too. But this also was an opportunity for me to put myself out there as a new professional and coordinate a team of 5 other professionals, many of whom have much more experience than I do. But it was a chance for me to take a leadership role in that environment, and to be able to schedule meetings together and create agendas and get to know people in a very personal way. And we now have this shared experience, and I'm very happy to be able to call these people friends now. So I share that story with you to tell you that it's a scary process. It can be intimidating. You may think, gosh, I don't know if I can do this. But there were many times throughout this process where I felt, oh my gosh, who am I to be working with these people and to be doing this? And my heart was racing before the session started, because I was thinking, are people going to get anything out of this, or are they going to walk away feeling disappointed? And which I know alludes to some of my insecurities, but I think that ultimately we just have to remember that we are just as valid of a voice in this field as CS, Chief Student Affairs officers. So hold on to the fact that you have something to offer and you have something to give. And so this next slide here shares my happy place, where learning and relationships intersect. As I think about all the different things that I do as a student affairs professional, there is nothing like being able to work with wonderful, committed, talented people who are passionate about similar things and who are interested in connecting and collaborating to deliver something to others in this field. And so I just feel so lucky to have had the opportunity to work with all these people. And I think ultimately, if it's something that you're interested in, go for it. You're going to, yes, it's challenging, sure, it's scary, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it, if nothing else, for the connections that you make with your co-presenters. And I presented by myself too, but for me, I much prefer being able to work with other people, in part because I think that it allows us to share different narratives and find where those narratives intersect and overlap, and then also invite our audience to be able to share their narratives that might connect to the topic as well. So just real briefly, I'll share with you NASPA 2013. That's my group of wonderful, phenomenal ladies. That was where we talked about interfaith and spiritual diversity. And then Ryan Bai and I over here with our little hashtag essay chat, we connected and talked about our experience blogging, and we now work together. And then the next picture here are other bloggers that have worked with me on a blog that I have written for, which is called Student Affairs First Years. If you haven't checked it out, check it out, because it's all new professionals and it's all graduate students sharing their narratives. And so we presented some research based off of that blog. They're always looking for writers too, so make sure that you check them out and contact them if you're interested in writing. And then finally, that's my Essay Connect group, which was some of the story that I shared with you previously around social media. All right, so again, I think if nothing else to take away from this session, please remember, graduate students and new professionals, you are voices that need to be heard. Present something substantive. Don't present just the fluff or the generic stuff that we all learn in our courses, but present something that you can be proud of and that you can look back on 10 years later and say, this is where, when you're going for that PhD and you're writing that dissertation, you can say, yeah, this is where my research interest started. So definitely delve into those interests and allow those interest opportunities. Consider that interest an opportunity for you to explore that interest even more and do a lit review, figure out what are the current trends and current conversations around that passion area of yours. Also, we do a lot. We do internships, practicum, theses, papers, projects. I mean, you name it. There's so much that we do as graduate students and as new professionals. So that's all interesting experiences and valuable experiences, and they're all experiences that you could tap into to develop a proposal for. I've mentioned this before, but I just want to reiterate. Our experiences are valid just as much as Chief Student Affairs officers or as mid-level professionals or as other folks in the field. So we offer valid narratives, and let's remember that, and let's make sure that those narratives are heard. And because after all, we are the future of the field. So let's start building our legacies. Let's start contributing to the field and shaping the field as we enter it. And conference proposals and presentations are one very wonderful way to be able to do that. All right, and so similarly, just because we're learning in our classes or through our first couple years in the field, that doesn't mean we don't have something to teach others. So yeah, just because we're learning doesn't mean we don't have something to teach or to give. And if anybody tells you otherwise, just thank them for their opinion, but hold on to that confidence and remember that you do have something valuable to share. Also, if you're going to take the leap and go after a proposal, be sure to invest the work and the time that it deserves. Collaborate, be creative, think out of the box. Presenting for me has been a way to experiment and to try different ways of group dialogue facilitation, and to allow me to implement some of the creative ideas that I have around group facilitation or just around presentations in general. Playing around with Prezi or Keynote. Presentations are a great way to be able to do that. And then at the end of the day, this is a learning experience, both for you and for your audience. So it's learning for them because hopefully they're going to take away something valuable from your presentation, and I can guarantee you're going to learn so much through the process. So with those tips and tricks and takeaways in mind, what are you waiting for? We've got some fantastic opportunities to submit a proposal, and some of them are right around the corner. So the NASPA IV East 2015, sorry about that, 2015 conference, proposals are due June 19th, so just really right around the corner in a couple days. So if you haven't yet, there's a link to the proposal form there. So go ahead and check that out. Also, later this fall in September, there's the NASPA 4 East WISA, which is Women in Student Affairs, Drive-In Conference that's coming up in September at Northwestern. Proposals for that are due in July, and then the 2016 National Conference proposals are due September 4th. And I believe ACPA is also, they've opened their call for programs too. So those are just some of the big ones, some of the ones that I'm aware of, but I'm sure there are more in your state, in your area, and perhaps even at your institution. So go for it, take the risk, and I'd like to close out my portion with a quote that I really like from Meredith Brooks, which says, "Find your authentic voice, become vulnerable, and then put yourself out there." So I hope that this was helpful, and I look forward to answering some of your questions. Yeah, take the leap. It's going to be worth it. Lastly, so that's a little avatar of me, kind of. But these are different ways to stay in touch with me. I would love to support you and continue the conversation. So please get in touch with me either through email, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Reach out to me if you have any other questions. But of course, there's also time to ask any questions that you might have now. I'd be happy to answer those too. So, but yes, please let me know how I can help you, because I know that this can be a daunting process.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. I don't know about everybody on the call, but I'm getting excited and inspired just by all the things you said. Me and Jamie have done something that we've never done due to everything you said, is we are posting a lot of the quotes that you said. So thank you so much, Christina. I've seen her present numerous times before. Like I said, she's a friend in the COG League, and she definitely has always reached out to anyone that has done that, has reached out to her in regards to any of the work that she does or her program proposals. So our questions are coming in. We have one from, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Alyssa Vincent. And my question is, how do you balance bringing up a personal experience that can be helpful to share with others while also validating experiences from research and theory?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I think about my, I think there's a couple ways that you could do that. One way that I've done it is I've found sometimes presenting the research at the beginning of a session can be helpful for your audience, because it sort of tells them, it reminds them, hey, this is something that's out there in the field. And then, so I think when you're organizing a session, that can be helpful, is to call it to their attention to say that this is a conversation currently happening in the field through our research, and here's how my narrative connects to that. And then you can so I think ultimately the first thing that you have to do is do that research and that homework to find out, here's my narrative. I know this. What theory supports that? What research connects to that, if any? So when I was doing the interfaith presentation, we looked at, what is it that is out there in the field about spiritual diversity and interfaith, and there wasn't much, but we highlighted that, and then we thought about ways in which the programs that we had developed and the things that we had done on our own campuses connected to those theories, and we thought about where doesn't it, or what could be potential future research areas. So I think a lot of it comes from you being able to do your homework. If you have faculty that or folks who are experts in a topic that you're looking to present on, contact them. They can help you develop what research currently exists out there, and then make time to read it, make time to think about how that connects to your story or how it doesn't, and then make sure that you're including that and you're highlighting those intersection points, or you're highlighting those differences and distinctions in your proposal. Because again, I think that will tell reviewers, this is something that we need to include, because it starts a conversation about lived experiences, research, and the disconnect, and how this theory and research is being played out in a new professional or graduate student's experience. So I hope that answered your question.
I hope it does. And this is Christina's time to shine. And so I just kind of want to add, as a new presenter myself, I actually had this experience. Me and Ebony Turnbow in Region 4 East have been doing presentations on the intersection between ageism and genderism, so new professional women, and a lot of the discrimination we faced. And there isn't a lot of research out there about it, but we've been piecing together articles that we found on the information. Nothing is in higher education, nothing's in student affairs. A lot of it is coming from the business field. So again, as Christina has been saying, you might have to go out and venture and do your research to find it, and also use Google Scholar and your resources at your institutions or other people's institutions. So I asked a lot of people, not only in higher education and student affairs, but a lot of my community colleagues that are new professionals that are using a lot of theories and a lot of practices from things that they're reading in their own fields, like, what do you have? So it was a lot of that exchange of information. But don't feel a little bit scared or intimidated if you can't find a lot, especially a lot in our field. What that means is that you found a gap in the research, and therefore it is significant that this information gets out there.
Yeah. Totally. And highlight that in your proposal. I mean, I think that's absolutely right, Cherie. I mean, if anything, that just highlights that this needs to be talked about, because it's not right now.
I did see a question from Ted Kennedy. However, I did not get all of the question. So if there are any other questions, we'll be willing to take those. One thing that I did want to bring up, Christina, that you did talk about really briefly is we know about presenters, but what is a coordinating presenter? What is that role really briefly?
Yeah, so the coordinating presenter is similar to if you've ever written an article or been on a research team or something. It's kind of similar to like a first author, meaning basically they're putting together all the information and submitting it. So they're the one working directly with the reviewers. So basically, once your Google Doc is ready to go, or you feel confident and ready to submit, the coordinating presenter is the one submitting. What I have also taken that to mean, and it's dependent, it varies. You and your committee will have to talk about that, but for me it was also scheduling meetings. So once we got accepted, I was the one wrangling people together. I was the one creating agendas for meetings. And I was the one just checking in and seeing how I could support folks. Obviously, I had my own work to do and my own piece of the presentation, but I'd also be the one that they'd reach out to if, hey, I've got a really busy thing coming up, or, hey, I'm not going to be able to get this done. Can you help me? And then I would help and assist as needed. Cherie, is there anything you want to add to that, or?
Nope, you did a good job.
Okay, cool.
Another thing that I definitely love that you highlighted was the other side of this, right? So let's say you're not too confident right now of submitting a program proposal. However, being a program reviewer is so crucial to the process. And on top of that, it's a good resume builder. So if you didn't know that, you can put it on your resume. You definitely should. And it is service to our community. And like Christina was saying, it is a good way way to understand what's the criteria of the program proposal, what are people looking for, and if you're someone that loves to read and give a critical eye, this is something that would really be good for you. So our regional program proposals are due next Friday. And so if you are feeling like, I really don't have enough time to submit, please, when they send out the call for program reviewers, submit to that. They will be looking for them, and they would love to do that. And you know the national conference is here in our region, Indianapolis, here in my hometown. Well, not my hometown, but my current town. So even if you are in our region right now and you feel like there isn't enough time to submit it to the regionals, nationals is in our region as well. And so you'll have the opportunity till September to do that. So that is something I also put down. Miss Jamie is also on the call. Miss Jamie also, well, Mrs., I'm sorry, has a lot of good questions. Jamie, did you have any questions? As you are a new esteemed professional who is looking to submit her first program proposal to a regional conference.
Yeah. I don't have questions. You know, two things. One, Christina, I'm getting all of the feedback from people who are watching, and they're saying you're doing an amazing job. They said this was awesome. So great job. And thank you for sharing so much good information with us. And then the second thing, just for anyone watching, is I would really encourage you to make sure that you're having your program proposal reviewed multiple times. That's, you know, and don't be afraid to send it in to people. And, you know, it might look rough, it might be perfect, who knows, but really making sure that that program proposal is reviewed by a lot of people helps, you know, in one, making sure that it has the great potential to get accepted, but two, you know, they can ask those questions, they can fill in those gaps. Have it reviewed by people who are not in your area, you know, so if you're in residence life, have it reviewed by someone in student involvement or career development, or even, who knows, athletics. I mean, everyone has a perspective and an opinion to give, and so I just want to highlight that as well.
Absolutely, totally. Yeah, and I'm happy, like I said before, I am happy to support and edit, or, you know, I love that stuff. So feel free, if you're watching and you want somebody who's going to give you an honest and thorough review, let me know.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina. It was a pleasure having you. From the region, the KC, we thank you so much. I know Cherie thanks you. So, Cherie, do you have anything else to add?
I do. Just one more thing. Jamie and I have always wanted to expand opportunities for new professional and graduate students within this KC to get involved. And we've been doing it for the last 2 years. And this year will not be an exception. We've started this Master Class series. This is the 4th one. And we are currently looking to do 3 per semester. So 3 in the fall and 3 in the spring. So if you want to get your feet wet a little bit and you have an idea, please send that to Jamie or myself. You can message us on Facebook. We're always on there, believe it or not. Or our contact information is available on the NASPA regional website. And so if you have an idea, pass it to us, and we will work with you on not only figuring out your idea, but also figuring out this technology, because we finally got it. Thank you. But that is a good way to get involved. We also have the WISA drive-in that is coming around the corner. That program, Call to Programs, just actually came out as well. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the WISA knowledge community, as well as Mrs. Stone, Kriana Stone in Chicago, as well as we are a region that has the wonderful city of Chicago in it, and so there's always small conferences and programs coming up. But if you want to start super small, you can definitely be a presenter for our Master Class series. Please just get contact with me or myself. As Jamie was doing, on behalf of new professional graduate student knowledge community, as well as the regional KC, we want to thank you so much for participating. This is recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube page, as well as Christina will be providing her program PowerPoints on our Facebook page. So thank you so much, and I will again let Jamie close us out with any other remarks.
That is all. So thank you all for coming and being here. If you have any additional comments, feel free to share that with any of us that were here today. We really welcome your feedback. And if you're interested in hosting a masterclass, by all means, contact Cherie or myself. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you, Jamie. Thanks, everybody, for watching.
Thank you.